I would like to call this meeting to order. Commissioners in attendance, we have that. Yes, she's avidly typing away. Thank you. I am confirming that there is a quorum. We have 9 commissioners present. Great to see you. Thank you for being on time. It is like 4:05, so that's excellent. Let's quickly review and approve the minutes so that we can move on to other business. I know one of our commissioners has to leave exactly at 5:30 and another one has to leave at 5, so let's get business going.
I so move.
Okay, I got my second. Anybody against or abstaining? Excellent. Minutes approved. Financial update. Staff, what would you like to say about the financial update right now? Anything?
No, in that we are coming to the end of the budget year, and we're within the budget. Our attention basically is turned toward the upcoming budget.
Excellent. Okay. Oh, thank you, Erwin. Yes.
So the one thing that I would really like to see on this is a way that we can compare the budget to our actual as of the date of the report. I mean, I know that on the far left-hand corner it says budget, and then to the left, to the right of that, is the last column there a comparison to the year-to-date?
Yes, it's the total physical year actually.
Okay, all right.
You would have to move
From the left to the right? I don't want to do that.
Yeah, you got to go to the extremes. So you're saying, could it be formatted in an easier way?
No. Okay, that's all right. I didn't catch that, so that's fine. Okay, thank you.
Okay, excellent. We are going to move on to the new business of the meeting. I'm going to give you a quick executive committee update. We had an excellent executive committee meeting like 2 weeks ago. We had quorum. We had a great conversation. All staff were present, which you're going to meet very soon, which was really great. And we basically started to really nail down the buckets within which we want to work, which we will talk in more detail during the next executive committee meeting, which we have determined will be happening the last Friday of the 3rd week of the month moving forward. So that is a huge win for us, and everyone here is welcome to attend and weigh in. And right now, primarily, we're focused on getting these strategic priorities set so that we're clear on, because our mission is so broad, because our purpose is so broad, it can get us mired in a million different ways and make us somewhat unproductive and inefficient. So by being really crystal clear as to where we get to work and why, and the why has to do with all the other organizations out there in the world working in this, things that are being neglected, and our main mission. Hello, Dan. So I'm really grateful for the XCOM for being there and for this conversation finally getting nailed down. Some of the high level buckets right now are Title VI compliance, equity lens kind of evaluation and re-looking at that, affordable housing, and we're going to get more detailed on what that looks like. And finally, overall, like equity in Metro. So we've done a lot, inclusivics in that. We've done a lot of research in that. So that's a broader conversation, but I just wanted to give you a heads up on that.
Would you name those over again?
Yes. Did you have a question, Eric? Is it about this? Okay.
Yep. Is this the strategic planning conversation, or is this parallel, or will this feed into the strategic planning?
Great question. Staff has done a ton more work on strategic planning just because they can meet all the time and they don't have difficult interaction laws. So this is just getting some guidance from the commission on that direction. But in a lot of ways, it's basically feeding into the broader plan that they're working on, as I understand it. And as you'll meet staff, we have people that are in place now that can actually do research and think through and strategize on some of this stuff. But it is supposed to guide that strategic direction. But I wouldn't necessarily call it a strategic plan because it's basically buckets at this point. Okay, I'll repeat again. So Title VI, compliance, equity lens, follow-up, accountability, evaluation in Metro, equity in general in Metro, so anywhere from include civics to the mediation and the complaint resolution stuff that we do, affordable housing and the broader category of that, and even public safety, but that's kind of a tier 2 based on what the COB isn't able to do or would like support in. So those are the main broad categories as I remember it. You know, I've been plugging obviously economic development and stadium and all that stuff, but that is definitely a tier 2 to tier 3. That's not a top thing, but I wanted to mention that since it's come up a lot. Does that make sense for everybody in terms of what we're doing? And so we will be able to, hopefully if you can come and chime in, that would be great. But if not, we will bring a more solidified outcome of that in the future. Yes.
Just for clarity, if other commissioners outside the executive committee come, can they chime in?
Yes.
They can chime in?
Yes.
Okay. Just making sure legally that they can chime in.
Yes, everybody can chime in. We just need to have quorum of XCOM to make any kind of determination.
Let me make one comment. If it's a matter that's going to be subject to the full commission approving what the executive committee did, I would not recommend chiming in, giving you your thoughts, because that could be viewed as deliberating before you have a full quorum of business. So it can get a little tricky. But they can certainly attend and listen. But I don't believe they should be expressing how they would vote when a quorum is present at this meeting if it's going to be an action item.
Well, in the past, and maybe you can give us something clear on that, because in the past, at executive committee meetings, when commissioners did attend, they were allowed to.
That was an error. If it was on a matter that requires a quorum of this body to be present to deliberate.
Well, no. I guess what I'm saying
No.
is say we're talking about strategic planning that may ultimately result in a plan, but today we're talking about affordable housing.
Yeah, so we're talking more, Derek, about sharing ideas and thoughts than motions and decisions.
They don't indicate.
Right.
No.
It doesn't indicate how they're going to vote or what they would need in order to.
No.
That's right.
Not approve.
No, this would be like, oh, well,
Deliberate towards a decision.
yeah. No, this is like,
I have an idea of,
Yeah.
let's pitch this in there until we get it.
yes,
I think,
That's-
That would be acceptable.
yeah.
I think that's
Don't
right.
express your views on any issues outside of these open meetings with a quorum present on any issue for which you might be making a decision.
Right.
Whether it's a committee meeting or some other governmental meeting, or even whenever it's two open meetings at the Hardings or something like the Knox County folks got to do. You got to be careful with that.
And I just,
The open meeting says you're not to deliberate outside of the open meeting with a quorum present towards any decision.
and I'm sorry to ask, I
You
just,
have to be cautionary, by the way. I know I'm always the worrier of most resort, but I am.
We're our resident warrior. I feel like I now channel you, Derek, in my soul. So I'm aware that like decisions, motions, that kind of stuff. But these meetings are very brainstormy. They're very conceptual, intellectual sharing.
and I just want to quickly clarify that I want everyone's voice in that room. I just want to make sure we're doing it legally. So that's why I asked, so.
Okay, excellent. Yes, Garlinda.
Oh, I just wanted to say I appreciate the clarification. Just wanted to say that, and I appreciate your work because I call my mother Miss Worst Case Scenario 1934, and it's very helpful to have someone who can help us think through worst case scenario. So thank you.
And there's Davidson Desmond.
But one point of clarification, if it's an action that the executive committee can take without the full commission, then commission members who are not on the executive committee but at the meeting can voice their opinion.
They could voice their opinion in support, but I'd be careful to look at the bylaws. Many, and I haven't checked yours, but for example, many boards and commissions have the ability to overturn a decision of an executive committee. And if that's one of your rights, then I would not be expressing my opinion. Just giving you an illustration. In other words, the executive committee may not be the final expression of the will of this commission.
And generally, that's how we've worked, where we figure something out and we bring it here.
If it is a possibility, I would exercise caution.
Okay, great. So that is that. And yeah, it's all in Parkway Towers. So the office, not here, if you ever are downtown and want to come by. Next thing is Music City Iftar, which before I hand it off to staff to talk about, I just want to say I've done this. It is a really powerful experience. Like you learn so much about Islam. You also learn a lot about your neighbors and your community that maybe you haven't. And you break bread with people. And I learned a lot and I really loved it. So that's my preface to this is we all get to attend. Okay, thank you. Next, staff, what do you got to say about this iftar?
We will also be holding that month's meeting at the Music City Center in a room adjacent to the iftar. So we really would like for all of you who can attend to please attend. This is also part of a larger work that we're trying to put together. Iftar has been the one sustaining piece, but how do you get desperate groups of people together over a meal around education and awareness? So this, based on the way in which our budget will finally turn out, what we actually get determines what we can do, which has an impact on what the strategic plan can be. But one of the things about Iftar that's so important is for me bringing together folk to be respectful of another's religion, but also to share our common community interests. So the tables have great conversation. We have questions that individuals at the table are guided with, and we'd love to have y'all spread out through the audience to not only but to even bring us back honest feedback about the event.
Yes, so hi, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Kathy Carrillo. I'm the Director of Community Engagement for the MHRC. I'm really excited to be on. So just to add on to what Mr. Tucker mentioned, the theme for this year's Iftar is the Quran 1:148, which talks about racing to do good. And so we're really excited about that. We're trying to partner with different organizations that are not just attending to the Muslim community, but also other communities to bring communities together. So we're working on that. And specifically, we changed the meeting location of next month's meeting so that we can be right next to where the Iftar is happening. So the Iftar will be happening in the Davidson ballroom, and boardroom A is right next door. So you guys will have the opportunity to literally go straight from the meeting right into the Iftar if you have the ability to do so. And so Mark just wanted me to give you a quick note. The nearest entrance is 6th Avenue South and Korean Veterans. So if you are coming to attend the meeting or the Iftar, both, hopefully, you can enter through that way. As Davey mentioned, there are tons of tables. We typically have about 40 tables that hold 10 people each, so we're looking at an attendance of about 400 people. We will have interpretation available, so we'll have interpretation available in Spanish, Somali, Kurdish, and Arabic, which we're really excited to provide this year. But because of that, we want to make sure that the table conversations are accessible, and so we're looking for 40 table hosts, which is a lot. But we would love for it to be different folks from different communities that can be at the table and help lead these conversations. The questions themselves are created by the Faith and Culture Center. If you've never attended the iftar, the questions are on the table. There just needs to be a host that can help lead the conversations and ask the different questions. So what we would like for you all to do is consider if you would be willing to be a table host for the event and be at a table there. It's wonderful if you're bilingual, so that can help us a little bit with the interpretation and make sure folks are having the conversations in their in the language that they're most comfortable with. But otherwise, we would still love if anyone in the commission would be interested. Any questions about the iftar?
I'm interested in being a host, and then I guess how do organizations like sign on or partner with you all? Like an email or?
Yes, so we are going to be in the atrium leading to the ballroom. There's going to be tables. So you can obviously email me, Kathy.Carrillo at Nashville.gov, and I can help you get your organization sign up for a table. If you know of any other organizations that are interested in signing up for tabling the day of, there'll be the tabling right before, and then we'll enter into the ballroom and have the tables where they'll be able to do the programming. Well, there'll be the call to prayer, and then we'll come back and have the big meal, which is the highlight, and I hear that everybody truly enjoys. Yeah, thank you. Any other questions? No? Wonderful.
I'll be a host.
Oh, great. Thank you, Pratik. Any other hosts? April 6th. Oh, perfect. Oh, wait, 1 second. Let me make sure. Okay. Erwin, Alicia, Anthony. Okay.
You got everybody?
Oh. Going once, going twice.
And I'll do one too.
Yay.
So how many we got? 5?
6.
Six. Excellent.
Yes, okay.
34 tables ago.
Yes,
It's really, yeah, and you just have to ask the questions. It's fine. Yeah.
What time does it start?
It starts, give me 1 second, so sorry. The Eventbrite is up so that you can arrive. So we'll be opening the doors at 5:30 for registration. We'll be moving into the program right at 6. The call to prayer will be right at 7:05.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, great. And so, can't wait to see you guys there and eat that food and learn those stories. I learned, so much about Ramadan during that thing. Okay, participatory budgeting. What are we talking about there?
He is not here yet.
It's like, did we have a change in plans? Okay, we can move on to something else until he comes, and Howard's not here as well. Okay, I would like for us to do staff updates because there's been a lot of great things that are happening with staff. I will just do a really quick East Bank Stadium update. Ashley sent out an awesome email, super comprehensive. Thank you. I looked through that wonderful Google folder of docs and felt my blood pressure rise several times, but it was great. So thank you for putting that all in place. Obviously, the deal's coming up. Is it going to get voted? Is it not? I don't know. But it's a discussion and a debate, and we are active in it. So, please stay active in it however you can. Staff, my suggestion is that we skip over expungement and participatory budgeting for right now, since Howard's not here and Fabian's not here, and would love to hear about the staff update, because we did get just introduced to a new staff member, but just overall, do you want to do that?
Yes, and I'm going to let them do it. We are finally at our total staffing number, which is a total of 6. So that has been an uphill climb. Mark Etherly, who's the longest serving MHRC employee, is the assistant director. He's not here with us tonight. Mark kind of keeps everything moving along, but I want to let the staff members introduce themselves and tell you all who they are and a little bit about themselves. So I'm going to start right here, then we'll just jump over there and...
Forgot how the buttons work. I'm Ashley Batchelder, she, her. Y'all have seen me here a few months already, but I might not have ever said who I am. My background is in public health and community organizing, so my formal training and education is in public health. I worked in public health for close to 10 years in teaching and community-based research, often around issues around housing, healthy housing, landlord-tenant stuff. And then have spent the last few years doing full-time community organizing. So I was on the staff of Workers' Dignity, and I was doing tenant organizing down in Bedford County and Shelbyville specifically prior to joining this staff. So really interested in intersections of public health, housing, tenant rights, labor, all the things that we talk a lot about here. So that's who I am.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Crystal Cockrell. I am the administrative coordinator of the office. I will be helping Mark and pretty much everyone in the office just to keep things together and make sure our schedules are aligned well. My background is I'm definitely from the private sector of healthcare. That is my background. And I've also worked in education as well most recently, but I'm glad to be aboard in this very different arena. And I'm excited to just become more familiar with everything and everyone.
Welcome. Thank you for organizing us.
I've already introduced myself, but my name, I'll repronounce my name correctly, by the way, Cathy Carrillo, so Cathy. But I'm a Nashville native. I was born and raised here. My parents are Peruvian immigrants who went to Miami, but then decided Nashville was much better. I'm a doula, and I've done community organizing for the last 8 years, labor, transportation, immigrant justice, reproductive justice, all the things. So I'm really excited to be in this space, be able to see so many familiar faces, and work on community engagement for the MHRC.
Welcome, Kati. Okay, thank you, staff. I see Fabian is here. So we would say two things. Yes.
We also have another staff member, RJ Robles, who's not with us this evening, who, as you all met, he's going to be doing the Title VI compliance stuff. A couple things that I do want to say out loud and name is that I think we've put together a extremely qualified team to handle the business of the commission. They are all committed individuals to the rightness that's not always present in the world. They all are highly qualified in their respective areas, and we are excited about the work. But secondly, as the commission and as a personal thing of mine, is the type workplace that we're striving to create. And it's one that has to mirror the work that we try to do. So there has to be a certain intentionality about that. While I am the executive director, we are only as good as we all are. So I depower and use part of what the juice y'all give me as executive director to give to them in their respective positions to do their jobs. So you all are welcome, able, and encouraged to contact any of them specifically as you need or desire help or assistance. You don't have to funnel that through me, and they're more than willing and able to help you, but we are intentional and about the way it even looks and the way it sounds to be representative of the community that we're attempting to represent. So I'm grateful to have this cadre of individuals helping us fight the good fight of justice. Thank you.
It is no small feat that you have found these people, Davey. I commend you. Recruitment is not easy, and that you've come up with this team. We got to meet them at the XCOM. Mark was there. I literally screamed when I saw him because I've never seen him before, but I've talked to him 100 times. Kathy, thank you for coming. Thank you for joining. Thank you, Ashley, for being here and supporting us as much as you have in so many things that you probably didn't anticipate when you first joined. Your respective expertise is much needed and respected by all of us. And I'm looking forward to more collaboration in these, particularly in these XComs. And again, Davey, it is no small thing what you've done in this office in less than a year.
Well, and I even have to say that was collaborative. Our first hire was Ashley, and that was a collaboration with me and Mark. The next hire was Kathy. That was a collaboration. Oh, I'm sorry, RJ. That was a collaboration that between all of us and Ashley.
Right.
And Ashley actually led with the forms and all of that, so she's taken that over. So then the next one was all four of us in the hiring of Kathy Carrillo, and I kind of took a prerogative with the administrative person. So that's how it went down. So it was collaborative, and we're actually trying to model who we're trying to be.
We see it, so thank you. The future looks bright with this team. Okay, great. Without further ado, I see Fabian smiling back at us. So we'd love to hear your comment on the participatory budgeting in the mayor's office. And you can sit there or you can come to the fancy podium and remember to turn on your mic. Excellent. You got to push the little face, little guy talking thing. I don't know.
Hello. Well, hi, everybody, and thank you for inviting me to come here today. One thing that I never thought, like when I moved to this country 33 years ago, that I'll be able to be part of things like this, including designing this building. It was my design, and the furniture in front of you. I mean, Nashville has been great to me, and it all has to do with participation. I'm a strong believer in empowerment. As somebody that was an immigrant and had to work to have my place in this country, I constantly are pushing for that. And participatory budgeting, that's what it does. It really empowers people to be part of the decision. Like I always tell people, when you design a remodeling in your bathroom, the builder will listen to the person that will pay the bill, right? And so with this is the same. Each person that votes is actually paying the bill for a project and is being the decision-making for what changes will happen in the city. So giving people the power to make decisions about how the funding is used is the best way to have a truly participatory process. I brought a bunch of flyers, and I'm going to leave them here for you guys to use. But if we can start with the PowerPoint, I'll walk you through the slides. So when I started working for Mayor Cooper, we put together a first cycle, a pilot program in Bordeaux, North Nashville. It was in the year 2021. It was funded by the capital spending plan, which limits what projects can be done to infrastructure. Now, the second cycle was in 2022. The money came also from the capital spending plan. But in 2023, we proposed to the committee that was making decisions about how to use the American Rescue Plan funds to do a $20 million citywide process. And they asked us to scale it back because they had other issues that they wanted to address. So we ended up doing $10 million citywide participatory budgeting. Now, on this program, because the funding comes from the American Rescue Plan, there is more flexibility on how it can be used. It doesn't have to be limited to infrastructure. So I like to make that distinction. The other difference between the first two cycles and the third one is that the first two cycles were limited to the Bordeaux or Nashville area, which has a long-term deficiencies in terms of infrastructure. And the third cycle, the one we're doing now, is citywide. Any resident in Nashville that is 14 years old and older may participate. So, high schoolers, immigrants like me, all kinds of people, they just need to be residents in the city. So we're excited about that opportunity. So next I'm going to show you, this was a video, animation that was made by an artist in North Nashville that kind of tries to describe how participatory budgeting works. and it was funded by the Metro Arts Commission. So
So unfortunately, the Metro provided a laptop for this meeting. It's too old to support videos, and our other laptops do not have the correct commands.
oh, okay. Would you mind sending the links to the committee member? Thank you. Well, will make my presentation much shorter. So what it was nice about this animation is what it was done by locals, and it also kind of described a process, somebody imagining an idea, something that they want to see happen, and then that idea becoming a ballot item on that people get to vote for. And then once they vote for it, the item that gets more votes gets funded, up to the $2 million that were allocated for that part of the city. By the way, you can find these videos on, we have a website that we made specifically for this, and it is pv.nashville.gov, and you see it at the bottom right of the screen. So you can find all these videos there. One important thing about this process is transparency. So we endeavor to put out the minutes of the meetings, updates on how the projects are being completed, giving people an opportunity to apply and be a steering committee member or a budget delegate or whatever, submit ideas. This is all community driven. And if we are not able to give the community the tools to be able to participate, it kind of undermines the whole participatory aspects of it. So I guess just go through the slides. These were participants of the prior cycle. And again, the video won't play, but they were saying really cool things that, I hope you guys will watch it online. And then the last one was a video of a 15-year-old that was participating. She liked to walk to school, and so she had proposed to do something to make calming on the streets so she will be safe to get to school. So the beauty of empowering younger people that usually don't get to vote on people that will represent them on policy is that they can actually enact policy at a younger age. And young people have needs and wants that escape people like me. I'm much older, and I may not see the need of being able to safely walk into school in a particular corner of the city. But having the ability to shape that is something that is going to be more inclusive. Just keep going. There is this nice lady. Okay, this is basically the schedule for the process, and it gives you an opportunity to kind of break it down how the whole thing will work. The council approved the funding back in January. The steering committee was appointed with the help of the council members. The council members help us identify people. We wanted to have at least one steering committee member per council district. If anybody is watching and your district is not represented, please talk to your council member. We still have room for more steering committee members. The steering committee members will work on developing the guidelines. And so we don't tell the steering committee how the process should be. They will tell us how the process should be. So they create sort of the bylaws for the process. There are things that they don't get to decide because they are federal, state, or city law, but there are many things that they can decide that makes it more Nashville-based, like what project should be eligible, what project shouldn't be funded, what project should be funded, how long is it okay for the project to last, and there is a lot of things that they get to decide, and how voting should happen, how the outreach should be. All those things we are asking them to work on and to put together a set of guidelines. And once they are done with the guidelines, that's when we can start with the actual process of putting the ballot together. So what you see there is immediately after the steering committee is done with the guidelines, they become to be sort of like an oversight committee that keeps an eye on the process, and that we go to ask them for clarification when something comes up that is not clearly defined by the guidelines. But then the budget delegates can start working on the ballot. Now, the ballot can only include things that were nurtured by ideas submitted by the community. So if the community doesn't submit ideas for the district, it won't be on the ballot. So this is a call, and that's why I'm here today. And I need your help to tell people far and wide in Nashville to submit ideas. Any idea is a good idea. The budget delegates will decide if it meets the guidelines or not, and if it should be on the ballot. But if you don't put it in the system, it won't be considered at all. So we need to have those ideas. And for this to be truly inclusive and equitable, The ideas need to come for every resident in Nashville, people that are unhoused, immigrants, people from all backgrounds that usually don't participate. We want to hear from them. And if we don't have those ideas that are unique to the needs of that community, then they will never be on the ballot. And so please help us spread the word about the importance of submitting ideas. And there is on tv.nashville.gov, there is a specific link to the idea submission site on Have Nashville. We use Have Nashville because we don't do voter registration, and so we need people to log in their name and address. That way we know that it's a Nashville resident that is doing this. This is not for people, not disrespect to Rutherford County, but, this is not for Rutherford County, this is for Nashville residents. And the way we do that is by having Have Nashville collecting all the information. So people submit ideas on Have Nashville. Once the budget, when the guidelines are set up and when we start with the budget delegates, the idea submission period ends, which is in June 1st. And then the budget delegates will have 3 or 4 months to put together a ballot. The ballot will have 35 items, 1 per council district, the old council district. And then once the ballot is done, it will be put out to any resident in Nashville, 14 years old and older, to vote. So it doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is they have a local address and that they are over 14. And so we will be doing that either using Have Nashville, or if the steering committee so decide, we'll also have voting opportunities at the libraries run by Metro Libraries, and people will be able to mail in a ballot too. That will be up to the steering committee to decide, but it'll be a 2-month period. We want to give people plenty of time to participate. Each person will get to vote once for up to 5 of the items on the ballot. And that is very important because, as you will see on the next slide, this is the way they submit ideas. One more. There. So how do we make sure that we meet the requirements of the federal government for equity in the use of the American Rescue Plan funds? And how do we make sure that the parts of the city that have suffered more of the impact of COVID will be in a better shape to try to solve those problems? And we talked to the planning department. We wanted to use an objective scientific method of measure impact, and they recommended that we go with social vulnerability index, which is something that the CDC measures using many variables. And so we decided to divide the city into 4 regions. The most vulnerable part of the city will get to spend $4 million, while the less vulnerable part of the city will spend $1 million. So depending on the level of vulnerability, there'll be more money allocated or less. But everybody in Nashville will get to vote, will get to participate. So even if there is in a part of the city that is no vulnerable, very low vulnerability, if they have an item that they want to address and it gets enough votes, it'll get funded. So because, I live in the southeast Nashville, right? So I can vote for 5 items. I will probably vote on the item close to me just because people, tend to want to fix things that are close. But then I will also look at the social vulnerability index of the other items on the ballot, and I will say, I really want to help these people in Antioch or in North Nashville, and I'm going to use my other votes to help people in those parts of the city. So I expect that having 5 votes is going to allow people to spread their choices and help other people in Nashville that way. And so that's why we're using the social vulnerability index, and that's how we are, instead of weighting votes, we're weighting projects. And so depending on the project is located, if it's in a dark blue area, will be more likely to be funded because it will be on the $4 million bucket. If it's on the lighter yellow area, it'll be less likely to be funded because there is just $1 million. So it's a way to address the needs of equity. And this is the way we presented to the council, and this is how the legislation was approved. So this is how we're moving forward. And I'm very proud of this because I think it is important that we address the needs of the people that got, a harder time during COVID, right? So next slide. These are just some pictures of prior cycles. As you can see, it's very participatory. On the left, you see how the steering committee is deliberating on the guidelines. On the middle on top, you see a person voting on the Hadley Community Center. Below is the group of steering committee members, very proud of their work. And on the right, you see the vote counting. Vote counting is also done by volunteers. We don't want people to feel that the process somehow gets undermined by the government. So we are going to be asking volunteers to staff all the process and to make sure that it's very clear that there is no shenanigans, there is nothing going on that will make people feel that there is some kind of, crazy thing going on. So, so people are always happy to participate. This is really cool to see at the end of the day how people feel so proud of having been part of something. But the nicest thing is to see the project completed. When people like in Bordeaux Hills in Bordeaux, they really wanted to have this traffic calming in their subdivision, and they had tried different ways, and they decided to put it on, submit the ideas, and then it ended up on the ballot, and then they voted for it. They got all their neighbors to come out and vote for it. It got funded. So the day it got installed, they were just so extremely happy. So happy, actually, that they submitted more ideas to do another traffic calming on that subdivision. So people, when they understand that this thing works, that it really does give you an opportunity to fix things, they truly want to participate. And I think the next slide is one I put together because people tend to think about PV as something that is there to solve the big issues in the city, like the very expensive, involved, long-term plan things. That is what you see on the right, big projects. Is really to solve the small things. I mean, usually the projects that you see fixed with PV are anywhere between $60,000 to $500,000. It's like on the first cycle, they wanted to put a bathroom on Hartman Park. They were frustrated that they couldn't use the bathroom when they went to Hartman Park because it was inside the community center and it will close. So it went there after it was closed. They couldn't use it. So it got a lot of votes and it's still in the process of being completed. Bus shelters, many things that, people just want to see happen. They are not like $20 million projects. They are like smaller scale projects, but they matter to people. And so I wanted to make the point to anybody who's watching that as you submit ideas, think about those small things that drive you crazy. That I cannot submit ideas. I have to, every time I give an example, I have to make sure I don't do that because I'm not supposed to be influencing the process, and so I'll keep it to myself. But just try to think about like the small things that drive you crazy that you would like to see fixed. And that's really the. I want people to visit the website. There's a lot of information there, not only on the current cycle but on the two prior cycles. So if you click on at the bottom of the site, there is a link to those sites. Please visit and check it out. And anyway, if anyone has any question, happy to answer. Yes, sir.
Fabian, I have a couple of questions. So the first one is just like, based off of rough estimate, if what percentage of Nashville's residents voted in the previous cycles, just so we can have a sense of how much, you would love to see an increase in votes or what would look successful to you?
Well, on the first cycle, we had no funds to do outreach. So we had a small number of people, really small number of people that participated. So that gave us an idea that on the second cycle, we wanted to invest some money doing mailers. And so we did that, and that doubled the number of people that participated. It went from 500 people voting to 1,000 people voting. But on this cycle, when we made a request to the committee, we explained to them that for this to be successful, we needed to have a strong outreach and engagement component. So out of the $10 million, 7% will go towards mailings and just making sure that we actually are able to let people know about this. As all of you very well know, you can tell people a million times about something, but life happens and people forget, and so it just goes over their head. So we want to be able to do that. But we also need your help to make sure people know about it.
Thanks. And then my other question is just about, so anyone 14 and up can vote. Is there any sort of, I know you had mentioned registered voters or potential registered voters, is there any sort of like immigration issue or anything there? Like, can someone who's undocumented vote? Can someone who's a green card holder vote?
You don't have to be a registered voter to participate. You have to be a resident in Nashville.
In Nashville.
Yeah, just be a resident in Nashville and have to be 14 years old. Any resident in Nashville pays taxes in Nashville, so they're all welcome to participate.
Thank you.
Great program.
Thanks.
What happens when the money runs out?
When the money runs out, the program is done. This is the way the American Rescue Plan works is it's a limited funding. So that's why you don't want to use it for long-term projects like, to hire somebody you expect to be rehired the next year. There won't be funding for the next year. This funding is for the cycle of the program. It has to be spent by the end of 2026, but the money has to be allocated by the end of 24.
So the $10 million has to be spent, that's in the current cycle, have to be spent by 2026.
Yes.
Is there any thought that the steering committee might recommend to the council that this is a good idea and maybe should be continued in some way with Metro funds?
Well, that will be up to the steering committee to petition. I mean, I'm personally a big fan of it. That's why I'm so passionate about it, but I cannot tell the steering committee what to say, so.
Jorge.
Oh, well, first, Fabian, I wanted to say thank you. It sounds like you're thinking very thoughtfully about how to implement this program. Then I also wanted to give a shout out to the People's Budget Coalition, because I think that without their efforts, this wouldn't be a reality. So I want to acknowledge that it's because of them that we have this. And then I hope that this gets funded with the city's budget and not just with this federal money moving forward. And I hope that at some point, 100% of Nashville's budget is decided by the people, because I think the budget as it is right now is participatory. It's just that only corporations, the Chamber of Commerce, the developers, and the Fraternal Order of Police are the ones that get to participate. So I hope that this program gets expanded, it gets permanently funded, and I hope that going forward, that it is as thoughtfully implemented as you have presented it to us, because I think you did a fantastic job in thinking about how to allocate those funds in an equitable way.
Thank you. I just want to give credit to, I didn't invent this program. This has been used worldwide for many, many years. And so we are just learning from other people who have successfully implemented this. But I wish I could take credit for the idea, but this 4-step process is an industry standard that everybody that does PV does it. But thank you anyway. I'll take it.
Kosar.
Thank you again, Fabian. This is really, really exciting. I was wondering for the outreach, are there any sort of like plans to do like in-person like info sessions or like working with community organizations to like spread the word out? Just because I know, with mailers and text messages, people got tired of that, especially with the pandemic and during the elections. I know I probably won't look at automated text message except for my organizations. But I think something along the lines of like having in-person info sessions, teaching people how to participate in this, I think would be really, really helpful.
As a matter of fact, thank you for that question. And I brought flyers in English and Spanish here today. Our goal is to work with local trusted partners that can help us connect with people. I have actually talked to the people at the contributor, to talk to the unhoused people. I talked to Turk, I talked to Conexión. My goal is to get trusted partners that can get in front of people and get them to trust the process enough where they submit an idea. As you very well know, people are very busy and they won't spend even a minute doing something that they think will be a waste of time. So if somebody that they trust tell them, no, this is something that can help you fix that thing that drives you crazy, they might actually do it. But if the idea is not on the system, it will never be considered for the ballot. So we have till June 1st for those ideas to be entered. And that's why I'm coming to you. I need your help in telling the people that trust you to actually take the time to submit ideas by going to pv.nashville.gov. And the system that we have in Nashville is multilingual, so people can change the language at the bottom right to any language they speak, and even our website will change the language. So even if people don't feel very comfortable with English, they can choose another language and do it. And if they enter the idea in their own language, we can take care of it as well. Furthermore, we just hired at Have Nashville, we have a native Spanish speaker and a Kurdish person. And so if people want to call in 311 and submit their ideas over the phone, they can do that as well if they are not comfortable in English to fully describe what they have in mind.
Excellent. Thank you, Fabian. And if you do talk to that steering committee and they do decide to suggest to council that we get to do this long-term with our own money, please ask them not to take out the social vulnerability aspect of it, because sometimes when it becomes local money and it's no longer federally required for us to look at equity, we stop doing it. So I was really, really excited to see that map and the allocation of money. That really, this commission loves equity, and that gave me goosebumps. So thank you for that. I have one question, and then we got to move over. But what's the biggest amount of a thing that can I suggest a $4 million idea?
That's up to the steering committee. They were having a debate. They just started working, and they may decide to put a cap on it or not. Okay. The way it is now, there is no cap. But if they choose to put a cap, it will be now, because there is $4 million on the higher SBI. If an idea is over $4 million, it will be uneligible automatically, because you can only, like Irwin was saying, you can only spend the money that is there and nothing left. So people need to be mindful that, if you want to make sure that it gets funded, and the budget delegates will know this as they craft the ballot to make sure that things can be funded.
Excellent. Thank you. I'll think of my.
You guys can, if you want to share information with the steering committee, you can email me and I'll share with the steering committee. Okay. Who do I leave all these great flyers with?
You can probably put it in the front, and we can pick it up on our way out.
Thank you so much for letting me come and talk to you all.
Thank you, Fabian, for your contribution to Nashville. We appreciate you. The contribution of immigrants to Nashville. In the flesh. Okay, next, let's talk to Howard Gentry about expungement. Welcome, as Charles has to leave. Welcome.
How you doing?
Great, thank you.
That's all right. He gets a pass. Since he's leaving, I'll talk about him. I've known him since he was born. Yeah, so he's a good man, and he'll get to have his private moment with me. I am happy to be able to greet you all today and address you all. It's kind of exciting what we're getting ready to do, but I want to hold on a second. How much time do I have? Or don't I have?
You have time. I would say if we could keep the discussion around 10 minutes would be ideal. Is that
okay?
Okay?
That's fine. Anything you say is okay. But I was going to talk to you about why I'm here, but I'm going to digress for a second, because I run into so many people who don't really know what the criminal court clerk's office does. And I do want to take a few minutes to let you know what we do. We're responsible by statute of keeping the records of the courts and the criminal courts. We have 11 general session judges. We have 6 trial judges, which are called state judges, and they do trials. And so that doesn't come to but 17, but we also have a judge that deals with, dealt with DUI, and that's, I guess, how I got to the 18. But really, we got 17 judges that we work with on a daily basis. And unfortunately, the courthouse is busy. And records go all the way back to the early 1900s, and we have to keep every one of them. In a warehouse, we can scan, but we can't get rid of it. And so it's kind of, it's an awesome task. We've got people that run back and forth from the warehouse twice a day to get records, older records, but the newer records are scanned, so we are able to do that. We also have the bond and warrant company office, so that's the office that people go upon arrest, and that's where the record starts. And from that point all the way through the disposition of the case is where we are keeping records on a daily basis. We have clerks in every court. We collect. We are collections office also for fines and fees, which is not my favorite friends, but we have to do what we have to do. And we also handle filings and media and requests from individuals. It's a process that keeps 91 people busy through our process. And so we have become also a service office. We always were, but we have moved our office to the community. And that's what we're excited about today, because so many people come through the courthouse. And majority of the crimes that are committed are mistakes. They're not serious crimes. A high number, over half, are driving related, believe it or not. And so we're dealing with people who are not the hardened criminal, who are not the criminal that would return to our office, except for the fact that we end up burdening them with the responsibility of returning, and they don't know what to do. They have legal counsel. I'd say 70% of the people that come through the courthouse are poor and indigent. And so they do have representation when they come through, but they do not have the capacity in many cases to keep that representation going with them through the whole process. And unfortunately, they fail in many of the areas. So it might be about not showing up when they're supposed to. Well, if you're homeless and poor, first thing, it's hard to show up or get a notice when you're under the Jefferson Street Bridge and now you can't stay there anymore. And or if you're poor, you're moving all the time. So it is a process that you have to work, and you have to get out into the community. You have to bring the office to the community so that people will have every option available to them to be able to complete what they need to do to be relieved of the weight of the justice system. And so we have turned our office in that direction. Unfortunately, with certain statutes and laws, we can't go but so far. But it's so much farther we can go than we knew when we got there, even under the laws and statutes that we have. So we are very proactive, and that's why I came here to talk to you today, because we have become, I would say, 21st century and moving into 22nd century, and that is that we are now on social media. We have a web page. That web page is very active. As a matter of fact, we put a portal on our website about 2 months ago where people could actually email us about expungements. We never advertised it. We just put it up there. We wanted to see if people were going to hit on it and see if we could make sure that we had it set up in a way where we could manage it without mistakes. And we never got to advertise it. We're averaging over 150 emails a week, and it's just amazing how that has occurred. We do have our website, but we're also now on Facebook, Instagram, and there's one more that I have to, Twitter, the bird. And the username for those websites are CCC Davidson CO. CCC Davidson CO, as in Davidson County. And we have built the platforms, and now what we're doing is we're going around to media outlets and what have you to talk about this. Is really the hook to talk about expungements, and because that's so important. But to talk about this and also to get people to sign on, or what do you call it? What's the word, young people? When you go on those, follow. That's right. That's that very that new word to follow us on those sites, because what we're going to do on those sites and what we've already started doing is everything we do in the community, in the office, that need to be announced or known, or even we're doing vocabulary where you can understand the words within the system, because people don't know what expungement means until you explain it. And that is the removal of records. And the fact is that it's going to be exciting. But right now we're trying to get our viewership, our usership, or our friends built up so that they will be able to share it with their friends. And it all sends you back to the website if we don't have the answers on social media, and from the website, or it also sends you to a human. So that's the exciting part about it. I do want to talk about expungements, and that is very important. So many, I'm talking about in the tens of thousands, and I really believe it's even the hundreds of thousands. So many of people in our state, in our city, have come through the court system and don't realize that even if they're found innocent, even if their disposition is a positive one, that incident in the court stays on their records. They don't realize it because, unfortunately, they're not being told all the time. And even if they are told, if somebody tells you you can get your case expunged and then you got to go to that next person because you have a line of defendants waiting, that doesn't get explained. And even if they're told they can get their record expunged, they're not always told that they need to come to the second floor because you can't just call in. It's easier now than it was, but you either have to do it in person or have a lawyer. But the truth is you don't need a lawyer because the fact is there are no more expungement fees in Nashville. We don't even charge the fee that the clerk can charge of $100. I notified the mayor a year ago, once the legislature gave me the authority, that we would not be charging that fee, and we won't charge that fee. So there are no more expungement fees. So it's gone from a felony of $450 down to nothing. And so imagine all the people that never tried to get their records expunged because it cost them $450. Then it went down to $3-something, $100-something. Now it's $0. So we have to let the community know that because there's so many people that don't know. And to give you an example, in the last 5 years, we've expunged over 120,000 records. And we did research because we were trying to do a mass expungement, and we found that we had in the Davidson County, this is 5 years ago, over 130,000 cases that were expungible with no cost. But we could not get we could not do the mass expungement, and many of you can understand this now. We didn't think about it. The state intervened. But you've got some people that are from other countries that are undocumented, and they actually need that record to stay there. So you can't just wipe it away. You've got to give people an opportunity to say yes or no. So we kind of revamped on that, but unfortunately, our General Sessions courts don't have the standing to do that. It takes a bigger deal. So we've taken it upon ourselves to go out in the community. We have expungement clinics now. We're averaging about 4 a month, where either we're doing it from our office, this is out in the community, or we are partnering with an agency to do it. We just partnered with the Urban League. We've partnered, we were at the UAW on Friday and Saturday of last week. We did over almost 150 expungements at that location. We're doing more the rest of this month. And so that has to get up on social media because people can come and get those records expunged. Once a quarter, we go to Magruder Center, where Rachel Bell has her community court, and we do it there. And we have community services there also. So it's not just us, but we have other services, social services, United Way, other organizations that come and provide services while we're there. But when we go to Magruder, and I'm trying to talk fast, y'all, because it's so much. But when we go to Magruder, we actually have a judge there. So when you have a judge there, you're able to go a little bit farther. And that is if a person qualifies for indigency, then they can have their fees waived right on the spot. And we can go through the entire process without having them come back downtown and go to a collections court or what have you. So we've become very proactive. When I first became clerk, they were averaging about 10, 11,000 expungements a year. We're averaging up in the 30,000s now, and our goal is 50. And you say, well, at some point, you want to see those expungements start to come down, because that means that people are either getting it taken care of earlier or the courts are doing more intervention. And that is having people not have to come through, using diversion, ROR, and other opportunities and not have to come through the court system. And we are doing a better job. We are doing a better job. This is not here to criticize what we're doing in Nashville. This is to celebrate, because we could not be as aggressive. We're not required by law to go out and expunge. We're required by law to allow somebody to expunge. But not just expunge, we're also license reinstating, driver's license reinstatement. We're required to do it if you come and ask, but nobody told us we had to go out and do it in the community. But that's what we do. And also voter restoration. We're definitely not required to do that. We're required to check the box on number 4 to say that that person has had paid their dues, fees, and what have you, even though that's questionable now whether they ever had to pay those fees. But the fact is that we check that box and we're done. But you can come to our office and we can take you from the beginning to the end. We can sign you up, register to vote, be in contact with pardons and paroles, contact with the election commission, and you never have to go anywhere. You possibly have to go to the election commission. But once we take you through that process, if you have a felony, it does not matter. 90% of the people that come through can get their voting rights back. Almost 90% of the people that come through can get their driver's license reinstated. But they just have to know how to do it. And from 2019 to today, we have reinstated, or we have restored or provided voting opportunities for over 3,000 people, and the majority of them are felons. So the numbers are huge. I tell my staff, you ought to be proud of yourselves. We don't deal in the hundreds, we deal in the thousands. And we are, what I think, are serving our public in a very, very proactive way. Now, are we doing everything that we could do? No, we're not. But we are doing everything we can do in a more timely fashion. I am the criminal court clerk office. I can't tell the other agencies what to do. We work as a cooperative. And not that the other agencies are against anything we're doing, but they have to adapt their computer system. They have to adapt their processes also to ensure that they're doing their jobs as required by law. And so you just can't bust in there and say, we're going to have video court. We're going to do it on video now. We're not going to do in the courtroom. And you can't just do that. But those types of things are on the horizon, and the more that we can get to the public as quickly as possible, the people have phones now. People have technology. The more we can get out to the public through technology, through other mediums, the quicker that justice can be served for the people that come through our court. Everybody that comes through the court are not worthy, well, everybody's worthy, are not able to get their circumstances satisfied. Some have committed some pretty harsh and heinous crimes, and they need to be dealt with in that way. But when the majority come through your court, there are people that have just made mistakes or minor crimes, we need to move them. Yes.
Just to ask you a question, in 2019, I worked in this space, and it was really, really hard for formerly incarcerated folks to get their voter rights reinforced. What has changed since 2019 that you're able to do this? Because what I remember is they were bouncing around with bus money and all this stuff. They didn't even have jobs yet trying to get this done, and it was like pretty impossible.
Well, that's exactly what has changed. The state laws are not easy. Tennessee is in the top 5 states that have one of the most difficult states to get your voting rights back. But we have developed a relationship with pardons and paroles and the election commission. And I'd like to thank both of them because they didn't have to do this. But now the word is getting out now. It's really getting out because there's a lawsuit right now that has us as an example of what could happen, so I guess we're not a secret anymore. But it used to be that you had to go to pardon and paroles. Then you had to bring the form to us. Then sometimes you had to go back to pardon paroles. Then you had to go to the election commission. Then the election commission had to send it to the state for final approval, which that still happens. But now pardons and paroles allows us to work electronically. The election commission allows us to do it electronically. And with that being done, then we're a one-stop shop. And unfortunately, it could be done in every county that way, but unfortunately, those other counties sometimes do not have the staff or the ability, because I had to create a position to actually handle the numbers that come to us now from the agencies and what have you.
So appreciate the work you do, Mr. Gentry. What are the limitations on what records can be expunged?
Well, believe it or not, you'd be surprised what records can be expunged and can't. But the limitations are, of course, the high-level crimes, such as murder, rape, large drug crimes, not minor drug crimes, use of a weapon, gun, things like that. But the list is so long of what you can, and it changes every session of the legislature. But on our site, and that is ccc.nashville.gov, so that's our website, ccc.nashville.gov. You can actually go on our site and find the charges that are expungible and the charges are not. But there are definitely serious crimes that are not expungible.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Yes, Davey.
Thank you again, Clerk, for coming. I have a somewhat adjacent question. The commission is preparing to release this would be the third iteration of the Inclusivics report, where we look at metro government through a clearly research lens. We've tried in the past, but there seems that there's no standardized criminal justice database in the city. And so my question is there any move afoot to do that? Because when you first started your presentation, you talk about how the records start at the arrest and they go all the way through the court disposition.
Yes.
And when we've tried to look at data before, and in testing our own data, several things come up. One, like what a person is charged with is not often their final disposition.
Right.
But that stuff is not in the record, even down to sometimes gender or even sex, for that matter, is not in the record. So is there a central, or is there a possibility of Metro creating this one-stop shop for criminal justice data that relates out of the courts?
Well, there is one record where it is, and that's the court records that we keep from the time that they're arrested to the time that the disposition. All that information is in there. But you're wanting, you actually have to go into that file and look for it. And of course, you already know that.
Right, and that's what's creating it's showing us that there's problem in the data when you have to go through and then you
so
see.
here's the challenge, because I guess you know about the data kept in through the mayor's office and that the criminal Lord have mercy, I'm a member of it. The committee.
Yeah.
You know about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I just don't want to assume before I go into this. The problem with it is the information in those files. Some of that information is not public record. You got Social Security numbers. You got where sometimes there's a child involved. You've got other issues that are in those files, and that would require somebody having to redact it as those records are being kept. But unless it's my office redacting it, it can't get done, I can't ship it out to someone else. So the best I can do, and I'm really trying to make sure I'm answering this as correctly as I can, the best I can do right now is to allow a person with public record to request the file and to get the information out of the file once we've redacted it. Now, when it comes to race, that should be in that system. The criminal, sorry, I'm sorry.
No, I know the database you're talking about.
That database should have race, it should have sex, it should have the crime, and it should have whatever that crime was reduced to. Well, no, it would only have what it's reduced to. It would not have the original
charge.
But the other information you're talking about would be difficult because it would have to come out of my area, and I don't know if I can think of a way. Anything you ask for, if it's by law we're able to provide, we can give it to you. We can give it to you, but it's and when you want it in mass form like that, it might be a little difficult to do.
Because I guess the problem that we're encountering is you can't get a huge data dump. You got thousands and thousands of files.
Yeah.
And so how do you, the one side of the house that is the initial arrest information that goes into the criminal part, and then you have the backside of the house as it moves through the courts, and then you have the final disposition. And I don't know if there could possibly be a way with a coalition of the people that are part of the JTS committee or whatever that is. JIS, that there be a database that could be formed that, Metro would have to pay for that, but it provides organizations like us the ability to check and to verify, like when traffic stops went off the record, you could see that. But what you couldn't see was, although traffic stops went off the record, all the disparities stay the same.
Yep.
So while, everybody's saying, oh, there's less stops dropped by 60%, the disparity in people of color and poor people still remains. Even in sentencing is one of the things that we've been unable to do in Nashville is to see, does that trend play out in sentencing? We feel like it does, but not having access to a central database to access the data. So,
well, you probably have reached out to agencies. Try us and let us see. Let us try to work with you and see what we can and can't do. And let's just see. I mean, I've done it with others. We do it with media all the time, and so it's not anything new to us. But I will say on record that everything we have done, and I'm going on a limb here, but
And this will be the last statement because we have to move on to some of our members.
Everything we have done to minimize and bring fairness to the criminal justice system as it relates to be more fair and efficient and effective. That line that he's talking about, that racial disparity, remains.
Right.
It remains. I don't care what we do, that racial disparity remains. And so that means that we've got a problem beyond arrest.
Thank you. Thank you for that last statement. And we appreciate you being here. I certainly learned a lot. I think everybody else did. I had no idea that it had changed so much since 2019. Thank you for your work and your service. And we will work to get the word out on all those websites and social media. Thank
we
you.
will follow you.
Yes.
Yeah, we will follow you.
Follow me.
And share.
And like you.
And like and share and friend you.
Like me.
We like you. Okay, I just want to be cognizant. Erwin has asked to bring up two things before he has to step out. We are on good timing right now, but I just wanted to make sure that we get yours in before you have to step out.
I appreciate that. This is a time of the year where we have a confluence of Ramadan, Passover, and Easter. And I think it's important to be cognizant of that. I wanted to make the commission aware of two events relative to Passover that may be some interest. First, one of the things that our good friend Avi Poster did during his time with us is to create a social justice Seder that takes place at the sponsored by the Jewish Federation. This year it's going to be April 30th. If you're interested in attending, you can go on the Jewish Federation website, and that'll be 8:30 on March 30th. Another thing that happens in many congregations is that Passover is a time of liberation and celebration of liberation. At our synagogue, we invariably have different kinds of seders representing different kinds of issues that people have. We've always had an LGBTQI seder. This year, the seder is not only open to LGBTQ members of our congregation, but also their allies. So if you're interested in celebrating a Passover Seder in community with the LGBTQI community, you're invited to go to the Temple's LGBTQI Seder, which will be April 1st, Saturday night, and you can register for that at thetemplehub.org. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you, Erwin. Those both sound great. Okay, so to just return back to the agenda, we did everything on news business. We did staff updates on old business. I did a little bit of East Bank, and happy to talk to anybody more in depth about that. And then I see Inclusivics update. Is that something you want to provide, Ashley?
Yeah, let me preface it first. You see the looks. I'm going to violently tear it from her hand. So, no, she is putting together an awesome document, and she's continuing to work on it. So, but at some point, here you go.
It will be done next week. We reviewed it as a staff last week, and so we found some, improvements that we want to make. Again, if some of y'all might have missed when we did the preliminary look at it. So this is looking at trends of our Metro General Government employee workforce. So we look at who our departments are made of. What's our employees by demographics, by salary. So we look at gender, race, ethnicity, departments. In the data that I didn't have prepared last month or 2 months ago, that we do now have in there as well, is about the counties that people live in, which have some really interesting patterns and trends. And so we look at just in general, where do employees live? So I can give you some highlights. Like, we have employees who live in 60 different counties of our 95 total counties in the state. We look at changes over time. And so we see our employees who live in Davidson County are trending downward over the last 6 years of data. And then we look at patterns by race and by income levels as well.
Can I throw one out?
Sure.
I believe it's 62% of the people who make over $100,000 that work for Metro don't live in the county.
Can we use that stat right now?
And the vast majority of them are white men.
62% of the people that make 100K
or more
live outside of Davidson County.
Yes.
And what about people that don't? Because I thought it was going to be that they can't afford to live in Davidson County. So that's a different narrative almost.
Well, I just pulled out what I
That's a good one.
Was a fun fact.
That's a good one. But did you see this as well?
Do I need to work out the intersectionality there?
Well, I mean, the report's going to come out next week, or it'll be done. But I would imagine that I'd be interested to see those who make less than 100K. How many live in Rutherford County versus Williamson County? I'm sure there's a discrepancy based on income level.
Yeah, I'm guessing 100K is Williamson County. But okay, yeah, that'd be great.
Will the report also break out demographics on management level employees in Metro departments?
So what we're thinking about doing, that's the thing that we talked about last week, in fact, the report, which is an addition from previous years and why it's taking me a minute, is that we've made department profiles for all 51 departments that we've done as well. And so I think what we're going to do is show who is the director of each department.
Okay. At least the director this year, maybe a little further down in future years.
Yeah, so if you have ideas, it's not too late, but, you know, I've only got a few moments left until it's out of my hands.
Well, and to your point, Erwin, it's also looked at in increments of salary, which also have a correlation to position. So that's also one way to look at it, which is an interesting finding that people of color fill the bottom 4 positions, the bottom $10,000 increments. The majority of them are people of color. The same way, the majority of people who are at the top 4 are white, particularly majority white men. So, so it's good stuff. It looks
It's still good
I
stuff.
think to be honest in public, it's on the record. I thought it was ready last week. So, but we're trusting Ashley's leadership on it.
Yeah, it sounds like you're delving in even deeper than the ones in the past. So thank you for that. There's so much to say about Nashville today that we couldn't say 10 years ago. So thank you, or however many years.
Just out of curiosity, how's the rollout going to be on that?
We want to do hard copies that would go to, council, mayoral staff, to the departments, but also to have an online version, roll it out on all of our stuff. And it will also be equivalent to a release of something from us that it'll do what it's done in the past.
And I know the commission in the bylaws or whatever has the ability to talk about this. And so we'll be happy to do that however is needed. I do remember looking at some of the salaries in the report that you did, the PowerPoint that you did, and the convention center salary was the highest, and he is now leaving or has left, and I'm so curious as to whether the salaries are tied to him or to the position at the convention center, and if that is going to change. No thoughts, no ideas. Yeah. What about 60 seconds? Oh, okay. Vice Chair is telling me I have 60 seconds. They look like they're deliberating something very important right now.
Oh, no, the person you're talking about.
Butch.
No, that's the convention
Yes.
center.
Yeah, and it was 3.
The other one is it's 2 different organizations. It's not, that's not the one that you're talking about in the Music City Center. You got the convention.
Yes.
Yeah, it's 2 different people. That salary of the person you're talking about is like closer to $800,000.
Oh, I remembered like 369.
No, that's the person who runs the Music City Center.
Okay.
Miriam, I think you're thinking of the Nashville Convention and Visitor Corporation.
Okay. And so
which is not included in my data set. So in the same way that MTA, the Airport Authority, Nashville Public Schools, and MDHA are not included in this, what you're talking about is also not included in this report.
Okay. But the other one, which is significantly higher, is. Okay.
Can I make a quick request before we adjourn? Very fast, but just to staff, and if commission agrees, I think it'd be helpful. But for both the presentations we heard today, I think it would be helpful if staff could reach out to Fabian and to Howard Gentry about language access. I went to both websites. It did not seem like there was a Spanish or Arabic or options there. So if somebody could reach out, I think that would be helpful.
Well, we're in the preliminary look at a situation that may bring this back up. For some of you that know, the commission has been a proponent of language access up to and including there was a passage last year of some monies to create a program that would print various forms in 5 or 6 major languages. But we're seeing that concern all over the place in a multiplicity of ways, even including MMPS. So we are doing some preliminary look in that regard. And so that may be an issue that, based on what we find, we may have to go back to pushing for this language access piece again, or a more robust addressing of the situation.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Did you want to say?
So this is happening Tuesday, March 14th, but the Tennessee Immigrant and Refugee Rights Coalition is having its annual Immigrant Day on the Hill. So if anyone on the commission in their personal capacity would like to attend, or anyone listening, feel free. And then the other thing is we're starting to plan the World Refugee Day with resettlement organizations, and so would just like to just put that out there. I think we're gearing for it to be June 22nd of this year.
Excellent. Thank you. And with that, I'm happy to hear a meeting. Yes.
Please don't forget to pick up as many copies as you can grab in your hand of the participatory budgeting flyers.
Thank you.
Yes.
Put them in your offices. Happy to hear a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
In a second?
Second.
Any against or abstain? Excellent. Then the meeting is adjourned. Thank you, staff, for another great meeting.
What would you do if
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.